The 19th century dawned bright with promise for the young United States of America. It was a time of immense change and boundless optimism as the nation looked to expand its horizons and carve out a new destiny. The spirit of adventure and the desire for a fresh start beckoned pioneers westward. Families packed their belongings into covered wagons, leaving behind the familiar in search of new opportunities and a better life. The fertile lands beyond the Appalachian Mountains held the promise of prosperity and opportunity for those willing to brave the unknown. These lush green fields were seen as a land of plenty where hard work could yield great rewards. This westward expansion, however, would come at a great cost, forever altering the lives of the Native Americans who called these lands home. Their way of life, deeply connected to the land, faced unprecedented challenges. The newly formed nation, founded on ideals of liberty and justice, presented itself as a beacon of hope. The American flag symbolized freedom and the promise of a new beginning for many, yet the reality for Native Americans would prove starkly different. Their struggles were immense, as they faced displacement and the erosion of their cultural heritage. The government's hunger for land, fueled by the dreams of its citizens, would set in motion a series of events that would displace and dispossess entire nations. Settlers eagerly marked their claims, often unaware or indifferent to the impact on the indigenous populations. This is the story of how America's westward expansion, while fulfilling the dreams of some, shattered the lives of others. It is a tale of ambition and conflict, of hope and heartbreak, as the nation forged its path to the Pacific. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson made a deal that would forever alter the course of American history. This monumental agreement, known as the Louisiana Purchase, was acquired from Napoleon Bonaparte's France for a mere $15 million, and it doubled the size of the United States overnight. This vast territory, stretching from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, promised boundless resources and opportunities. It was seen as a land of endless potential. However, there was a catch, one that would have devastating consequences. The land was not empty, and it was not America's to buy. Numerous Native American tribes, many of whom had thrived there for centuries, were not consulted in this transaction. Their voices were completely ignored, as the United States had purchased not land, but imperial rights from France, a nation that had never truly controlled the territory. This oversight was not just a minor detail, but a blatant disregard for the sovereignty of the Native American tribes. It set a dangerous precedent, one that would be repeated time and again in the years to come, leading to numerous conflicts and broken treaties. In the early years of westward expansion, the United States government attempted to maintain a facade of peaceful coexistence with Native American tribes. Treaties were signed, promising to respect tribal lands and sovereignty. However, these promises, etched in ink, were soon broken under the weight of westward expansion. The pressure from settlers, eager for land and opportunity, proved too great to resist. As more settlers moved west, the government began to renege on its commitments. Treaties were reinterpreted, boundaries redrawn, and ancestral lands seized. The government often employed underhanded tactics, exploiting language barriers and cultural differences to deceive tribal leaders. Alcohol was frequently used to manipulate chiefs into signing away their land rights, leaving a bitter legacy of betrayal and mistrust. The Louisiana Purchase marked the beginning of a relentless westward push that would see Native American tribes forcibly removed from their ancestral lands. The Ohio River Valley, home to tribes like the Shawnee and the Miami, became a battleground. The U.S. government, eager to secure the land for settlers, engaged in a series of wars and forced treaties, driving Native Americans further and further west. The Southeast, too, witnessed the horrors of forced removal. The Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, known as the Five Civilized Tribes, had established sophisticated societies in the region. They had adopted European customs, embraced agriculture, and even developed their own written languages. Yet their assimilation offered them little protection against the insatiable appetite for land. Section 5. A Rush for Riches. The Gold Rush and its Consequences. The discovery of gold in California in 1848 sent shockwaves across the nation. Thousands of fortune seekers, fueled by gold fever, rushed westward, trampling Native American lands and rights in their wake. The fragile peace that had existed was shattered, as settlers, often armed and dangerous, encroached upon Native American territories, leading to violent conflicts. The government, instead of protecting the rights of Native Americans, often sided with the settlers. Treaties were disregarded, and traditional hunting grounds were overrun. The influx of settlers brought with it diseases that ravaged Native American populations, further decimating their numbers and weakening their resistance. Section 6. The Trail of Tears, a nation's shameful legacy. The forced removal of the 5 civilized tribes from the southeast stands as a particularly dark chapter in American history. These tribes, which included the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, had established thriving communities with their own governments, schools, and systems of agriculture. Despite their efforts to coexist peacefully and adopt many aspects of European American culture, they were still subjected to forced displacement. The Cherokee, despite having assimilated and even winning a legal battle in the Supreme Court affirming their right to their land, were not spared. The Supreme Court's decision in Worcester v. Georgia should have protected their sovereignty, but it was blatantly ignored by the federal government. President Andrew Jackson, defying the highest court in the land, declared, "John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it." This statement epitomized the federal government's disregard for Native American rights and the rule of law. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 set in motion the forced relocation of tens of thousands of Native Americans to designated Indian territory west of the Mississippi River. This act was justified under the guise of providing land for white settlers and promoting economic development, but it resulted in immense suffering and loss for the Native American communities. This arduous journey, known as the Trail of Tears, saw thousands perish from disease, starvation, and exposure. The conditions were brutal, with many forced to march hundreds of miles with inadequate supplies and shelter. The Trail of Tears remains a haunting reminder of the human cost of westward expansion. It serves as a stark example of the devastating impact of policies driven by greed and prejudice and the enduring resilience of the Native American people in the face of such adversity. Section 7. The 5 civilized tribes Anpasung und Widerstand. The 5 civilized tribes Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole each responded to the pressures of westward expansion in their own unique ways. While some sought to appease the US government through assimilation, others fiercely resisted the encroachment on their lands and ways of life. Their stories, often marked by tragedy and resilience, illustrate the complex dynamics of this tumultuous period. The Cherokee, for instance, developed a written language, established schools and newspapers, and even adopted a republican form of government. Yet their efforts to coexist peacefully were met with betrayal and forced removal. The Seminole, on the other hand, waged a protracted guerrilla war against US forces in the swamps of Florida, demonstrating their unwavering determination to defend their homeland. Section 8. A legacy of injustice, the enduring impact. The legacy of America's westward expansion casts a long shadow on the nation's history. The forced removal of Native Americans from their lands, the violation of treaties, and the brutal disregard for their rights remain a stain on the nation's conscience. The consequences of this era continue to reverberate today as Native American communities struggle with poverty, discrimination, and the loss of their cultural heritage. The romanticized narrative of westward expansion, often portrayed in textbooks and popular culture, often overlooks the perspectives and experiences of Native Americans. It is crucial to acknowledge the injustices of the past and their lasting impact on Native American communities today. Section 9. Remembering the past, shaping the future. As we look back on the history of America's westward expansion, it is essential to remember the stories of those who were displaced and dispossessed. The forced removal of Native Americans from their lands is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of upholding the rights of all people. By acknowledging the mistakes of the past, we can learn valuable lessons about justice, equality, and the importance of respecting the rights of all people. It is also crucial to recognize the resilience and contributions of Native American communities. Despite facing centuries of oppression, they have preserved their cultures, languages, and traditions. By learning from their history and amplifying their voices, we can work towards a more just and equitable future for all.